Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are playing Gran Turismo 2, and unlike last time we played Gran Turismo 2 on the show, this time I'm actually playing it in career mode because I bothered to go and do some license tests. That's right, I am legally allowed to drive this little virtual blue Miata. Apologies for the lack of music, I know it's kind of sacrilegious not to have the like da 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 before the race starts, but I can't differentiate between game music and licensed music, and if that was on in the background, we all know how YouTube would respond. But yeah, Gran Turismo 2, this was very much my family's game growing up, but I have grown into it. I suppose I am fond of it now, especially as like a mark of nostalgia, right? Playing this game for the first time in many years. Is such a hit to like the senses of, oh wow, I remember these buttons making these noises, and when you finish a race the music goes boom 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 boom. But not only that, Gran Turismo 2, if you've never played it, is very interesting, or I guess Gran Turismo 1 probably is too, right? Any PlayStation 1 racing game that tries really hard to be a serious simulated racer is very interesting, because by modern standards this does not feel like a simulated racer. It feels more like a bit of an arcade track racer, if I'm being honest, because the physics are very approximate, they're quite floaty. You know, you're not too heavily penalised in terms of friction for hitting a barrier or other cars or anything like that. There's not much damage, although there never is in Gran Turismo games. And so you got a Gran Turismo game in, like, you know, all the ways you would expect. Except if you've never played the older, more original ones, it feels, I don't know, more lively. Like, I make the joke that modern Gran Turismo and Forza games are boring racing games. I often talk about how I like a boring racing game, right? Well, this is not boring. This almost feels more dynamic. There's something about the old Gran Turismo games that are lost in translation to more realistic physics as they grow older. That's not the right term. As they go down the generations, or up the generations, however you want to phrase it. It's your life, it's your brain, it's your mind, you can do what you like, I'm just here to yap. But anyway, I don't intend to spend too much time talking about Gran Turismo 2 today, because what else is there to say? It's a classic. It is what it is. You're watching it right now, and you're already charmed or you're not, and I'm not going to sway you either way. Now this week, before we get into what I've been playing, I want to talk about something that happened to me in that place we call real life, because there are no rules against it. I can do that if I want to on this show, and it's just a little story. It's not that crazy, I'm hyping it up far too much. I got bit by a dog. Bloody hell. I was walking to work, and the path was narrow, and I just went to walk around this couple who were walking three dogs, and one of them jumped up at me yapping, and I went, oh, and I didn't really, I guess, throw myself into the road to avoid it, and it took part of my arm away with it. That was fun. I mean, it wasn't actually that bad. I kind of went, oh, he's bit me, and they were very apologetic. I was like, don't worry about it. And you know, since I've had people tell me, you should have told him to muzzle their dog, you should have, oh no, and I'm like, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. If I see him again, then maybe I'll be like, hey, like, if I was a kid, that could have been really bad. But, you know, like, I'm not about drama. I ain't about starting drama, so I just went about my business. My arm was bleeding though, and I got into work, and, you know, that was a whole thing. But I decided to do my shift, and then, because I looked it up, and, you know, I am in the UK, by the way, I should mention rabies is not a problem here, but tetanus can be, and so I booked myself in for a tetanus shot, and then I had to wait 5 hours in the urgent care unit for everyone else to be seen, because I was probably the least urgent of all the care that needed to be seen. So that was a fun way to spend my Friday. It's one of those things where I was like, I'll probably be fine if I just don't bother, but, you know, first of all, we only get one body, should probably take precautions, look after it, all that stuff. You're supposed to have a tetanus shot every 10 years anyway, so might as well get that under my belt. Secondly, it's not really a process I've had to deal with before, going to the urgent care unit by myself, or at all. I've been quite lucky in that regard, and so it would probably be helpful to have that in my head if anything serious happened. down the road, I at least know what it looks like, the process of going there and getting seen. But yes, they gave me a tetanus shot, they gave me some antibiotics, and here I am, alive, hale and healthy, the arm is healing well. And I've talked about this for so long that I'm making this out to be a far bigger deal than it actually is. Just, if I'm being real with you, I haven't got a whole lot to tell you about video games that I played this week because they've kind of been the same as last week. Wait, actually, I do have some updates. I'm lying. Don't click off the video. Don't leave! No, I do have some things to talk about. So first of all, yeah, I've continued playing some Enshrouded, I've continued playing some Palworld, I've continued playing some No Man's Sky, you know, a lot of things that showed up in the miscellaneous shenanigans video yesterday are things that, unsurprisingly, I've been playing. You did watch yesterday's miscellaneous shenanigans video, didn't you? But also I've resubscribed to an MMO, and that MMO is RuneScape, an MMO which I might have subscribed to a little bit sooner, but I was hesitant because I don't like some of the personal views of the current CEO, who is undeniably good for the game, but also undeniably not a great person. It's a weird kind of double situation, but hey, I've abstained long enough to have made my personal, like, hey, you could have got more money out of me, but you didn't. Even though you're not going to notice because I'm one amongst thousands and thousands. But hey, you know, it's my conscience that I'm appeasing here, I suppose. So I've got like 8 months worth of some really solid updates to explore for RuneScape 3, because I should mention, that is the main one that I am playing. Although it seems like they've steered the branding away from the free altogether, so now you just have RuneScape and old school RuneScape, which I guess makes more sense for newcomers. But yeah, there's some stuff I already knew they were doing, like updating, like graphically reworking a lot of areas in the game to kind of remove some clutter from over the years and make more of a cohesive visual style, which I really appreciate. And that stuff really does go a long way. And there's also stuff like they've made like a simplified basic interface for everyone, although you can still have your older one if you want to. They've implemented some changes to what they call dailyscape, which is all these daily things that people would feel obliged to do for efficient XP as you log in. As an Iron Man, I guess actually I wouldn't have less of those, I would have more of those, whoops. But the main thing I've noticed is the daily challenges are still there, but they feel more like XP bonuses for something that you might have been doing anyway, and less like, oh, I need to get these done or I'm going to miss out on the overall weekly thing. There is no more overall weekly thing to work towards, and also they feel a little bit less rewarding in general. And so I don't feel bad for ignoring them now, I just feel like, hey, if it's a skill I'm already planning to train, I get a little bit of extra XP that day. Isn't that nice? Probably the right way to go about it. So yeah, there's been lots of little things like that, a lot of little updates over the months, but also there have been some pretty major ones. First of all, the biggest one, I have not touched Havenheim yet, have not ventured over eastwards, just because that's going to be a whole deal, and I'm not ready yet. What I have checked out is the new player-owned housing system, and boy do I have some thoughts, both positive and negative. First of all, I'm thrilled that they're overhauling it to begin with. This is something I've been wanting them to do for a very long time. For those of you not aware, RuneScape's player-owned housing system, first of all, it's like an instance thing. You go for a house portal and that's where your house is. Now they've updated it so you can be part of like a miniature, like 5-house neighborhood with your friends, but you don't have to. But it's still kind of like instancy like that. But the way it was before is you would build a room, like for instance, a parlor, and you would have hotspots where you could build things, and you couldn't change those hotspots. So a room was a room. All you could really do was rotate it, and you could change like the type of, for instance, chair. In a chair hotspot, you could have like an oak chair, a teak chair, a mahogany chair, a basic chair. Those were your options. Whereas now, it's a lot more freeform. You can choose, instead of choosing rooms like this is a parlor, this is a kitchen. Now you choose room like types, like a square box or a larger square box, or a like corridor or a longer corridor, or like a T-shaped corridor, or like an oval room, stuff like that. And then you can fill those how you please. And it's not completely freeform. It's still kind of on like a snap grid-based system, and it has some limitations. Some pieces of furniture can't be placed diagonally. And this is where I really want to get into the negatives. I do think this is a little bit half-baked. Like, I can place chairs down diagonally, but when I go to sit down in the diagonal chairs, it says you can't do that. Basically, you can only sit down in chairs that face north, south, east, or west. You can't sit down in diagonal chairs. They're just there for decoration. They're not a different furniture item. They are the same furniture item. It's a very kind of obvious, we haven't animated that yet. And it just feels underbaked. Like, it's not that one thing. I'm not nitpicking here. There's dozens of things like this. Like, I couldn't make my house layout the way I wanted to, because even though the doors lined up for the rooms I wanted to connect to each other, I was getting messages saying you can't place this here because the doors don't line up. And visually, and like on the grid and everything perfectly, they do. And so it seems like a programming oversight that I assume will probably get fixed someday. Plus there's a whole issue of, while they are looking into it, and in fact by the time this video goes live I believe they will have added an update to the housing system with this. Currently, as I'm recording this on Sunday before, you cannot move rooms that you have already placed down. And given that some of the larger rooms are like 250k, 500k, it can get pretty pricey if you're not like super endgame multi-millionaire. Like, for instance, I spent half of my character's total, I was going to say total wealth, that's not entirely true, coin pouch, I suppose, physical money. I spent half of my character's fortune just trying to get things right. And that's not ideal. Like, I don't see why it's so bad to just refund you the cost of a room that you delete. And when you couple that with, like, oh, something that I expected to be able to do by the game's own logic isn't working, then you do end up wasting a lot more money than you expect to. And then there's just, like, you know how I said things are placed on a grid? There's just a lot of issues with, like, clipping. For instance, I make a bed and I go to put it in a bedroom and I try and put it up against a wall, and no matter what rotation I have the bed, and no matter what, like, north, south, east, west facing of the wall I set it against, the bed frame always clips through the wall. And there's other problems with other pieces of furniture very much like this as well, like bookcases clip through walls and like skirting boards and stuff, like not just a little bit, like you can kind of overlook it, but like noticeably. And so the way I've done it is I've just had bookcases kind of like almost working as partition walls, where there'll be one in the front and then they'll be back to back, is what I'm saying, which is kind of a fun look, but at the same time it's not what I'm going for. And yeah, the system is just very workaroundy right now. It's very like, oh, that's not ideal. I'm not saying like every 5 minutes I was running into something that I couldn't do that I expected to be able to do, either because of an oversight or a missing feature or a bug. I'm saying it was more like every 30 seconds. So it's not ideal. However, even this is so much better than what player-owned housing used to be, and I see the vision. I feel the ownership of a more custom home area that I want to build out, and having something like that in RuneScape, which isn't like the most efficient XP thing to be doing because I'm already 99 construction, is really rare. Like, I'm working on something which is more player expression than it is player progression, and I think that's really fun and nice. In most ways, World of Warcraft's recent housing system does have it beat, unfortunately, but that's also not very surprising given that that's more of a robust game in terms of like the engine work and like what that engine is probably capable of, right? And also, there are some things that RuneScape does do better than WoW housing, like bookshelves actually act as bookshelves. You can put books in them and store them there. It's so good. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I really hope Jagex continue to work on player-owned housing, because right now it very much feels like a part 1 update. It almost feels like early access to housing. So hopefully they're not just gonna fix a few bugs and call it done. Hopefully they're gonna keep working on it. I get the feeling that they might have rushed to put it in the game earlier than it maybe should have been, because Leagues 2 is coming up, and I'm sure they're expecting a bunch of people who haven't played since Leagues 1 to check out the game, and they probably want the housing system in place as one of the major updates they can point to and say, look what we did while you were away, don't you want to stick around now? And I should say before I forget, that is one of the major reasons I returned as well, is Leagues is starting soon, and it happens to coincide with my next week off, so when in Rome. I did burn out on the first RuneScape Free League last time, about halfway through, but a lot of the things they're changing for this league look like things which might help me burn out a lot less quickly, such as we're probably not going to have to do any questing or much questing at all this time around, which, as someone who finds questing to be fun but also very taxing on the whole, like, I've got to figure out what I'm doing and where I'm getting my resources from and follow a guide closely and stuff, you know. Yeah, I very much appreciate that. And also this time around, we're doing like region locking, which is what it originally was in old school RuneScape as well, which is fun, and should help kind of like focus me a little bit, I feel like. Also looks like they've addressed the progression curve a little bit, because in the original league it was a bit like, oh, okay, you do this, you do a few things and you get the next tier, and then you do a few more things and you get the next tier, and then you do a lot of things and you get the next tier, and then you do like a ton more things to get the next tier. And I was like, ooh, okay, I don't think I care anymore. You know, like the fantasy of I'm getting these massive XP buffs and progressing really quickly fizzled out pretty quickly. It looks like that may be addressing that, so it should be a good time. If it's not, I think I'll just revert back to my my main character. I mean, I guess it's technically the same character, but you know what I mean, like the main game, and just continue progressing there. Because I think one of the main things that ends up burning me out on those leagues realms is because at the end of the day, it's temporary, right? Like, I get so far in, I put so much effort in, and then a part of my brain goes like, you know, this is all temporary. You're just doing this for cosmetics, and at some point it doesn't feel worth the effort. Anyway, another big update that's happened in my absence is they've finally turned their eye to dungeoneering, and there's some nice things which have happened there, such as you no longer have to like check a chart to make sure you're progressing efficiently. Like, it's pretty simple now. Just like do a dungeon and you'll get good XP. Like, there's small, medium, large. I think I read that just doing smalls is the most efficient XP nowadays, which is fine by me. But before it was like, oh, you have to do a whole calculation about when you prestige and start over and stuff. Now it seems like you can just keep running the latest dungeon you've unlocked over and over again, and it'll be good. I greatly appreciate that. Also, you get a lot more dungeoneering tokens as an Iron Man. I greatly appreciate that. Also, you can like store items with the smuggler now. Beyond just items you bind for your equipment, which is really nice. There's just been a ton of quality of life changes to that skill, and I really do like that skill, so I'm really happy to see that. But yeah, I'm not going to run down absolutely everything that's changed since I've been away, but it's a lot. Like, I played RuneScape in a year where I think it was post-Necromancy. It did not get a lot of meaningful updates, and people were starting to fear that they'd given up on that game and were just fully moving over to old school RuneScape. So now, seeing this 8 months worth of updates, that feels like multiple years worth of what I was used to before. It's nice to see. I will say I'm kind of like struggling to find my footing in the game a little bit. Of like, I've yet to really grow invested in the game again. Like, it's been fun to check out the new updates and stuff, but I don't feel like the pull to play it right now. And so maybe I'll wait until Leagues 2 starts before really investing some time. We'll see what happens. My attention span is a little bit threadbare right now, so it's not the game's fault. I suppose I could also check out Old School while I've got this subscription, but I don't know. We'll see. Man, why'd I spend so much time talking about how I got bit by a dog? Clearly I wanted to talk about RuneScape today. Anyway, the other main game I've been sinking a lot of time into is, wait for it, drum roll please, Coloring Pixels, the game where you paint by numbers until you make pixel art happen, because it's such a good game. It's free, by the way, on Steam. It's such a good game to listen to an audiobook to. Like, it's the perfect combination for my brain specifically of I am doing something besides just listening to a book. So it doesn't feel like I might as well have the physical book and be reading that. And it's keeping like both sides of my brain entertained. You know what I mean? Like, I can visualize the story perfectly while I'm playing this. Oops, sorry, my alarm's gone off for my antibiotics. I better take those or I might die. You are supposed to eat with these, so shall we try a snack live on air? I'm going to try some love corn for the first time. It's barbecue flavor. Because, you know, I feel like I should be fiber maxing. I feel like I need more fiber in my diet. And I like the term fiber maxing. It's the only maxing I stand by. Alright, let's try some corn. Oh. That's good corn. Other corn brands are available. I'm fiber maxing all the way to the bank. The bank of being slightly healthier. Also, it was a cute alternative streamer lady who told me I should be doing this, and so I'll do anything she tells me. This has been a very weird episode of the Weekly Waypoint, hasn't it? If you're still here, thank you. I mean, I guess it's been a pretty weird week. I might as well pass it on to you. Oh, I should mention, the reason we're driving a Nissan Skyline in this final race here is because I couldn't figure out how to change my parts. Like, this was a race which required a maximum of like 197 brake horsepower or something, and I exceeded that on my Miata after upgrading it. And I couldn't figure out a way to swap out my parts for less powerful parts. Is that just not a thing in this game, or am I stupid? Let me know. Either way, I bought this used Skyline, which met the criteria. I do wonder if I should check out Gran Turismo 3 next, or if I should just stick to a save file on 2 and try and build out my garage, you know? I really do think 2 is probably the sweet spot for me, to be honest, in terms of how the driving feels. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat my corn. I'm gonna try and not turn into a chicken in the course of doing so. If I grow any feathers, I'll let you know. That's gonna do it for this episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let me know down below if you've got any hints, any advice for my fiber maxing journey. Like and subscribe if you want to. It helps the channel, and I will catch you in whatever I make next.